1 month ago, I called Paul Watson, and I got all my reporters in a room, and I said, here's a UN and here's a CDC report, and here are major medical journals saying Ebola was confirmed to be somewhat airborne 2 years ago in 2012, and it's clearly mutated. Here are the mainstream documents on that, and it is replicating and spreading at 10 times the previous worst outbreak 6 years ago. I said, I'm no medical doctor or virologist, but I'm reading what all the top ones say as an analyst. This is going to be a gigantic outbreak on top of what's already happened, and it's clearly somewhat airborne. It's gestating longer. And we were attacked, let me not exaggerate, a month ago. Let me not exaggerate, by tens of thousands of publications. AP attacked us, others did. That was in thousands of publications alone. You could type in Infowars.com Ebola and see the stuff from a month ago. Paul Watson's doing a video on it. He's doing a report on it. We're going to do a special report Sunday because it's not about defending Infowars. It's about understanding how propaganda works. We presented documents. We presented fact. We tried to warn people. And we said it may not end up, infecting the rest of the world, but it is going to ravage Africa. You know what the headline today is on Drudge from the New York Times? So now the New York Times said it. It's true. Just like the New York Times 3 weeks after we proved with video and the city manager of Kingsville, of McAllen, and video where the Border Patrol told us to go, our ICE whistleblower. We went and showed the Border Patrol loading them on buses and giving them vouchers, the illegals. We broke that. And we were attacked. People said it wasn't true. And we took the mainline documentation and we put it in articles and it went viral, pun intended. And then we got attacked. Just like they said 3 years ago we were lying, there were no domestic surveillance drones, even though we were covering local newspaper articles. Just like they said there were no death panels in Obamacare. Just like they said that we weren't funding Al-Qaeda in Syria, now it's admitted. The truth is, my show is not radical. I get radically upset. I try to get people to wake up. I jump around naturally because I'm upset. That's not a manipulation that I get up here and get upset, but it works because people are in a coma. And it's time for folks out there to get out of their comfort zones and realize we're in danger. And here's the headline out of the New York Times, what we're afraid to say about Ebola. And then they talk to the virologist and the World Health Organization, and they say it's going airborne. There you go. So we're going to have Paul Watson and my reporters put together articles showing the videos and the articles where we said this 1 month ago and were attacked. There it is, August 4th, 2014, Paul Joseph Watson. And let's scroll back down. He wrote that 2 days after I told him to. Let's go back to the top. CDC concerned about airborne transmission of Ebola virus. Federal agency directs airline staff to prevent spread of infectious material through the air. Obama then signed an executive order saying for any respiratory illness you can be detained. And the media said, oh, well, that was just a reissuance of Bush's order. But it expanded it to any respiratory problem, not just specific known pathogens. So we broke it. We were right. It's confirmed. It was confirmed then. We're going to break it all down because now they're saying it's uncontainable. Virologist, it's too late. Ebola will kill 5 million people. Expert says virus will infect entire population of African countries. Now, that story is on prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com right now. A month ago, or back on August 4th, Paul Watson wrote the article because I called my reporters in and I called him on the phone. He's in England. We're here in Austin, Texas. And I said, hey, I've got a stack of government reports, CDC, UN, World Health Organization reports. I've got mainline medical journals, 2012, saying that clearly monkeys to pigs in African studies has been transferring the virus through the air. And I said, I want articles written about this. So Watson did write an article, and for TV viewers, we'll put that article up on screen. Also, print me another copy of that, guys. Thank you. CDC concerned about airborne transmission of Ebola virus. Federal agency directs airline staff to prevent spread of infectious material through the air. Now, Drudge carried links at the time to the actual studies. But Drudge also linked to some of our articles at Infowars.com. Then, literally thousands of publications, AP, you name it, which is then in tens of thousands of publications, when AP puts it out, came out and said, there is no airborne Ebola, everything's fine, don't listen to Alex Jones, don't listen to Matt Drudge, when all we were doing was writing articles or linking to articles that had been written 2 years ago in prestigious scientific virology publications about the fact that it was becoming airborne. Not super airborne, where it drifts around like anthrax in the air and can live for years, but airborne enough that if it gets in spit or mucus, it can float through the air and you can get it. And now it takes weeks to show up, so it spreads because it doesn't get identified. And there is the myth article, the most destructive myths about Ebola virus debunked. Ebola virus is airborne, waterborne, or spreads through casual contact. That was in the Huffington Post. And they and many others attacked us in a whole bunch of stories. That look at Drudge being irresponsible. Look at Alex Jones. Look at InfoWars. They're fear-mongering and saying it's mutating and saying that it's becoming airborne. We didn't say that. InfoWars wrote articles linking to the mainline medical studies. And clearly, Ebola is more aggressive now. At the time, it was already 10 times a month ago, back on August 4th, over a month ago, 10 times the previous number of people getting infected at the rate it was. Now it's way over that. There's almost 3,000 dead right now. There's over 250 mutations they've confirmed as it spreads across Africa. And the media has been whitewashing it. I remember numbers 2 years ago that there were more than 200,000 rebels attacking the Assad regime and that most of them were al-Qaeda affiliated. 65% was the number the media put out. It's more like 95% now, we know. Today I saw an article, the CIA says there's thousands and thousands and thousands. Why? 13,000 ISIS people in Syria. 13,000. There were hundreds of thousands, and then half of them or so went into Iraq. The other half have stayed in Syria to loot. They ran out of stuff to loot in Syria, so they went into Iraq. I mean, it's just constant whitewashing. Now, here's the headline today. Doc warns of airborne Ebola. And it's not Infowars.com. It's the precious New York Times. And here is the story. Here are some of the headlines. Ebola is devouring everything in its path. Could it lead to Liberia's collapse? Washington Post. The Daily Beast. Ebola's terrifying evolution. I thought it wasn't evolving. I thought I was a liar. Ebola virus. Biological war in Liberia. BBC. Ebola outpaces global response. World Health Organization says New York Times. And here's the New York Times article where they basically break down the fact that it's starting to go airborne. It's not crawling now, it's starting to walk. And then if it runs, it'll turn into the Flash. And remember what Dr. Pianka at the biology department at UT, the eugenicist, said about how soon the airborne Ebola would come and wipe the earth clean of the human scourge, and that he and his family were ready to die. I made a film about it. It's called End Game. End Game. blueprint for global enslavement. 3 hours long, 30 minutes of it. It's really 3 or 4 films, but 30 minutes of it, it has chapters, is on airborne Ebola. So I made the film 8 years ago. It's evergreen. For the folks who don't know what that means it gets more alive and doesn't die and gets more important, that film. FBI comes out. Synthetic biological could reduce our population. Synthetic biology is being quietly inserted into the food supply. I was so concerned, and to give them credit, the FBI was so concerned by Endgame, they went and interviewed Pianka. Then he was on the news and went, I don't want anybody to die, man. They came to him and they said, you're over the biology department, and some of your graduate students have responded to Mr. Jones. We have their open letters here saying that all humans need to die. Do you have any knowledge of anyone in a lab with access to deadly biologicals that might be considering using them? Now that's a normal behavior of the FBI. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to, when you got people over biology departments talking about stuff, talking about how wonderful it's going to be when everybody dies, you need to go visit them. And they did go visit them because I guess they love their children. I'll guarantee you, though, they got reprimanded. Little Bird told me they got called off that real quick. So that's what's going on here, ladies and gentlemen. It's 12 monkeys for real. So, New York Times, what we're afraid to say about Ebola. Do I get apologies from MSNBC and the Associated Press and all these countless publications that came out? Fact check. You know, they had NBC affiliates and you name it with their fact check segments in D.C. and TV reports. Why, fact check, the crazy conspiracy theory site claims Obama signed an executive order to detain anyone with a respiratory illness, and it's because of Ebola. And they claim Ebola could be going airborne. Well, this is just false. They show no proof. They just say, I'm lying. Well, Paul Watson's article linked to the CDC statements and to the studies 2 years ago. I mean, we didn't write all this. The CDC did. I hope this is all hype. I hope. But let me tell you, you tell that to the 20-something thousand people that have got Ebola, the almost 3,000 that we know have died, and they're saying those numbers are whitewash. It's much worse. You tell that when the head of the World Health Organization's virology department comes out and says 100,000 will have it in Africa by December, and now they've got other virologists saying 5 million will die. I don't know. But I know the Black Plague killed at least a third of Europe, an estimated 10 million back at the time, when there was only 30 million people in all of Europe. Those are estimate numbers. Some say as high as half. I just say a third. It's a low number. I go with the low number. I know the swine flu killed tens of millions in 1918. I don't know. There's the Washington Post. 100,000 cases? See, they're already saying it could be 100,000. 20,000 or 100,000. That's the headline. See, we were very conservative, but we were first. We pointed out the analysis, and the establishment media said, why, you can't do that. InfoWars is incredible. Drudge is incredible. Because they wanted to whitewash what was going on, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to flashback Paul Watson's article to Infowars.com. And if anybody wants to go back to my reports, August 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, where I tried to make a point about its viral spread and got attacked, it's right there. Because just remember, folks, in a kingdom of lies, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox Special at InfoWarsLife.com.